Greetings, my internet friends. Welcome to Walking and Talking. The thing that I thought to say, I think I will not say now. The first thought that I can remember having of the thing that I was going to say after greeting you, but instead I said the second thought that occurred to me, or at least the second thought that I'm currently registering in my memory of my thoughts, because I'm not totally sure if there may have been other thoughts that occurred but didn't rise to the level of being acknowledged by myself as being thoughts in this linguistic manner. Or also, now that I think about it, I'm not completely sure what constitutes thoughts, or if there are distinct ones, or if they're all connected, or if you know, like the act of identifying a thought is the thing that is distinguishing it, where it otherwise wouldn't be distinguished from the mass. Just like one undifferentiated mass of thought. And I'm not sure if it's actually this process of speaking out loud that is playing some part in differentiating from this possible mass of thoughts, things that would seem distinct from one another enough to be called, for instance, the first thought that I had, or the second thought that I had. And now that I think about it, I'm not sure why exactly it was that I decided, apparently, to speak out loud the second thought that I had and not the first thought. I think it relates to a judgment that I made, that the first thought that I had was not good enough. And so speaking the second thought, which was actually just a reference to the first thought. I mean, it was, I think that the second thought which I began speaking was merely speaking about the fact that I declined to speak out loud the first thought that I had. And so in some sense, the subject that I am getting onto now, although indirectly, is the same subject as that second thought, which is the subject of evaluating the first thought that I had, and by extension the subject of evaluating whether it is good to evaluate or not, and whether there are grounds, whether there are any solid grounds for evaluation, or whether it is important to have solid grounds for evaluation, or whether indeed all these grounds are indeed subjective, and if that's acceptable or not. Anyhow, all these things that I've been saying may begin to imply the nature of the first thought, the one which was declined, which I did decline to speak. And the first thought was indeed evaluative in nature. But now I'm realizing, of course, the thoughts that preceded it, including the second thought, is at least implying evaluation in itself, or is based on evaluation, that is even the action and the decision to speak the second thought as opposed to the first thought is based on evaluation. And it also seems that all the subsequent sort of levels of reflection or analysis or whatever this is speaking about what has happened so far seem also in some way based on evaluation. Although now that I say that, it seems also true to say that what I'm saying now may in some way be based on observation instead of evaluation. But it seems like the two, in this case, are linked. That is, it seems that all of the observations that I am making are at least indirectly, if not directly, initiated from an act of evaluation. And conversely, it seems that all the evaluations require and involve some observation, but that's of course maybe insignificant or irrelevant thing to say. It seems perhaps obvious to the point of triteness at this point. However, it is perhaps of relevance for me to note that some duration seems to have elapsed. I mean, obviously, some kind of duration has elapsed, in which the things that I've said have a quality of being very self-referential and abstract, and I would venture to say kind of contained within a relatively tight thought structure or conceptual structure. That is, perhaps you might notice this as you're listening to me, that like maybe the feeling of like you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, or like, I mean, to me it seems like all the words that I'm saying make sense and that I am speaking, in understandable language, and that each kind of segment does have a normal connection to the previous, thought or sentence fragment, as the case may be. That it's of course not just gibberish. However, like the self-referential nature of the things that I have been saying, I think it seems to me, after a while, seem like self-generative in a way. I mean, maybe that is hubristic thing to say. Oh, it's just somebody dropped something. Look at this. The wow, Zeiss. This is a camera bag. That actually would fit this GoPro very nicely that I am using. So this GoPro, which in some ways is acting as an extension of your body, or kind of is from my perspective embodies your viewpoint. You know, like to me, in some way, your perspective is contained inside this GoPro that I'm holding, and in the course of walking, I've found a very nice case for it, or which I'm sure that I could say something kind of metaphorical about, like I could put you in this case and you'd be warm or something. But this I would like to actually just avoid this diversion from what is appearing to me so far as like a quote unquote successful process. And I say that because I feel encouraged by the possibility of just filling time with this manner of speaking, and how that has happened so far without a feeling of great difficulty for me. Because before I began talking, I felt so much unsureness, or let's say that I would have felt so much uncertainty if I had allowed myself to think about it, that it'd be quite possible for me to convince myself out of performing this operation that you are listening to at the moment. And indeed, it could be said even that in the time that exists outside of walking and talking, the time that occurs when I'm not doing this, some form of that is actually occurring, that in some way or in some way or another, I have declined to actively be walking and talking, that the purpose or whatever of walking and talking has not registered the amount of import necessary to tip the scale towards initiating the next iteration of the process. You know what I mean? Know what I'm talking about? Or that I'm unable to sometimes when I'm not walking and talking, I'm sometimes unable to to like recall or imagine what the process is like. And so maybe I fear it because from the outside it seems like so much uncertainty, and I might fear getting overly involved in my own subjectivity in a way that is like unpleasant or torturous, or that I would imagine to be narcissistic or just bad in some way. But now this is interesting, because as I am walking and talking, and as I just recently remarked, how I've been encouraged and maybe you could say pleasantly surprised by hey, look at that rotted fungus in the snow. It's like looks like charcoal. I've been you could say pleasantly surprised about how once initiated, I found no lack of things to say, especially because of this possibility of simply well, like I was saying, observe and perhaps evaluate or comment on the process of speaking as it has occurred so far, in a way that doesn't feel like burdened by, let's say, my own subjectivity or whatever. But what I mean when I say my own subjectivity or whatever is like narrative elements that would relate to my own story or something like that, like talking about myself per se, or feeling as if I'm speaking overly from myself or something. And now, I have to admit that in some sense, I suppose that is what is happening from a certain perspective or on a certain level. Yes. And in fact, I have now been commenting on this sort of difference of my perspective from being outside of walking and talking and inside of walking and talking, if you will, which is, you could easily argue, a type of narrative that involves myself as a subject. And it is maybe interesting to note here, and I suppose I'm attempting to continue on in a spirit of some kind of impartiality, but I realize, of course, that maybe that is impossible here, or that the idea of impartiality is like going to be a partial one. However, and a biased one and subjective one and so on and so forth. But anyhow, leaving that aside for the moment, and allowing myself sort of the privilege of continuing without analyzing whether impartiality is in fact real or possible or not, and continuing at least on with this ruse or this idea of impartiality. I was going to comment how that the talking elapsed for a time, kind of analyzing the sort of mechanisms of thought, and analyzing whether certain things that I had said counted as evaluation or observation, or perhaps both, or perhaps some entangled mixture of the two. And then it, from my perspective, kind of shifted to what could be said to be a slightly larger scope, at least slightly larger in a temporal sense, about this dynamic between being inside of walking and talking and outside of walking and talking. That is, I am kind of generalizing some ways of being when I'm not walking and talking, and trying to inhabit the temporarily, sort of like temporarily inhabit, or at least kind of sum up some generalization about like the version of myself or whatever who is not actively walking and talking in the moment, and what his relationship to walking and talking, or to the idea of walking and talking, is, generally speaking. And it almost feels like it almost feels like this version of self or perspective or whatever that is actively walking and talking, you know, like the supposed voice that I'm speaking from currently, that you're hearing, and most likely sort of the only one that you're hearing. Well, I mean, you might be familiar with other things that I do. However, those are also, you know, like a non walking and talking self. It seems how to describe this. It feels like this process being initiated again, or that well, that I can only say that I'm doing now. seems like its own life, if you will, or I mean, I'll try to say this. I'll try to come right out and say it frankly without equivocating that even though there's been like a long gap of time when I didn't walk and talk, that I'm walking and talking now, and it feels as if like I haven't missed anything, or that it doesn't feel like waking up after a long slumber or something. It just feels like continuity. Like it just feels like I am continuing. I mean, like almost as if like there is a severance or something between like this version of my subjectivity and the outside one. I mean, don't get any clever ideas. Man, look at all the bug scrawlings on that wood. It's really looks like writing, but don't get any clever ideas. And also that it's seems like it's pretty quickly veered away from a very microscopic kind of self-referentiality of the functions of speech and so on, outward to perhaps more fuzzy or more speculative types of ideas, I could say. But I was remembering, interestingly, towards the beginning, and it increasingly feels like this now, like something that I noticed towards the beginning, that it seemed like there were so many possible directions of, which kind of current or recent like thought structure do I want to turn my attention to and to build upon in any moment. And I think it still feels like that. Even despite, like when my concentration may wane, especially when I begin to kind of like notice certain like physical impedances going on, like begin to notice certain like things that are physically uncomfortable about this walking situation and the temperature situation. Like certain parts of my body feeling too hot and other parts feeling too cold. But this is evidence, as I just, what is it evidence of? I don't know. Of it could be maybe a type of defeat when I verbally acknowledge these things. Maybe it is a form of failure if I verbally acknowledge these physical phenomena that have nothing to do with the sort of abstract way that I think that I have been speaking. But at the current moment, I don't have too much other choice than kind of accepting what I have said so far, and you know, allowing that to be admissible insofar that it has already been recorded, and that I'm just insistent on continuing at this point, even if I have to maybe rearrange my physical situation for a moment. Like I can't even tell if I'm too hot or too cold. Well, since that the quote-unquote physical has apparently impinged on the walking and talking process, perhaps it's okay to admit some of it. But what I mean to say is that for a moment it seemed like the process of talking like this, whatever I mean by like this, for a long time led to, or I don't know, perhaps I don't know if it led to it or it's just that I subjectively, I myself like associate it with this, but a different perspective on how I would say that I feel, like how I quote unquote feel. I mean in the physical sense, that at least momentarily just now, there was sort of a shift between like feeling uncomfortable as discomfort, and then I did kind of have to shift around my clothing layers to make myself more comfortable, but also kind of simultaneously there's kind of like observing those sensations as sensation itself. I don't know, it's both, like that feeling like, you know, an urge to change something, but then also like a slight shift on just, you know, like that itchiness, just kind of like seeing the itchiness as something that could something a little more ambiguous or something. I don't think I'm explaining myself very clearly. Or like that I could allow my attention to at least partially inhabit these physical sensations rather than ignore them, but to not have them necessarily bother me in a way that I can imagine them potentially bothering me if I were just in a different mind state or mood or something. I mean, this is not to make some kind of assertion about, you know, mind over matter or anything like that, or just like, you know, just gotta like power through it all or anything like that. There's obviously limits to it. Now, this is something very familiar to you if you are a frequent walking and talking listener. So it's interesting when there's like a small gap, and then my mind kind of goes through, rehearses different things that I could begin to say. I can almost think of that as a version of like the extra walking and talking self that like if that went on for too long, you know, not talking, that is, if not talking went on for too long, then there would be a danger present in drifting into the type of self that is not walking and talking, and that you know, doesn't know what to say, in scare quotes, you know, not knowing what to say. It's like, of course I don't know what to say at any time, but like just by continuing, then you not exactly avoid that question, you just sort of like inhabit that question instead of being outside of that question and feeling like it's posed to you as a challenge. Which might, I don't know, might have, I don't want to necessarily like draw any conclusions about creative process or something from that, because it doesn't necessarily feel that way in other types of creative things. That this sense of like, this sense of a divergence or something between like the self that's inside of doing this and the self that's outside of doing it and thinking about doing it, because maybe there's plenty of other dynamics where that's not so much the case, but maybe not. But anyhow, like, maybe it is the case that I am now feeling something like difficulty in continuing the flow of speaking going, as in you may have noticed that there's more little pauses, and I think that the reason is, or what it is that I'm experiencing as difficulty, or at least that I thought I was experiencing as difficulty, is that I was allowing a memory to kind of inhabit my awareness, a memory of some earlier part of this walking and talking, in which the talking was simply sort of flowing by itself, but I have to actually be a little bit suspicious or skeptical of this memory and what it might be doing, what effects it might be having in this present part of the process, especially if it's involved in sort of an impression of difficulty. You know what I mean? That if I'm having a memory of, if I'm let's say like I'm just entertaining this thought that about how, you know, walking and talking should be going, and it should be going just swimmingly or flowingly, and that the words should just be flowing out, and myself, my subjectivity or whatever, is just can just sit back and relax and enjoy observing what's flowing out, or something like that. If that's a thought that I'm entertaining about how it should be going, then there arises the possibility of disappointment if it's not going that way, or the possibility of an expectation of ease or something, which then I would fear like could easily lead towards a type of detachment or uninvolvement, or not being fully involved, and the possibility of things becoming rote and repetitive. But also I guess I would say that, like, maybe something about this framework of how it's set up is that it almost seems like if that sort of thing starts to happen, the framework is such that it kind of becomes noticeably uncomfortable almost immediately, and I'm kind of like immediately kind of compelled to address that, or to sort of metabolize it in some way. And so now I'm sort of thinking like that the past few minutes or whatever have been kind of interesting, in that the quote-unquote difficulty or problems that I'm having quote-unquote difficulty or problems that I'm having now sort of being metabolized, if you will, or talked about in a way that my experience of it anyhow is being more fully involved, or that I guess you could say that I am rallying some further level of focus or concentration in kind of digging into the sorts of mental phenomena going on that might lead towards a pause or a gap in which I would like temporarily have the subjective experience of struggling to find what to say next. And that has, and then maybe finding, like, maybe being able to identify the that type of mechanism and how to activate it, how to activate further concentration or focus, if you will, and being able to identify perhaps when my speaking and or thinking may become lax in some way. I mean, of course, this is all sort of relatively speaking, and like relative to my own subjective experience and standards of what counts as lax and what would count as conversely focused or concentrated, and so on and so forth, or what counts as difficult, or what counts as moving along flowingly, and so forth. But this is maybe useful also, but also then I think maybe it is also possible to begin to dig down on what the phenomenon of concentration even is. Like so far in the moment, I guess I would say that it feels like a type of continued effort or continuity of effort, but at the same time, I'm not sure whether it's best to call it effort, because it's not necessarily an uncomfortable or undesired experience. In fact, I would say almost the opposite, that it's preferable. That is, I mean, perhaps I might actually be speculating a little bit too much here, and something that I can say with a little more certainty is that the experience of continuity of speaking is preferable to me currently than having long gaps or pauses. Maybe this is just due to the quality of fulfilling the structure that I've set out for myself of continuous talking, which is interesting to remember at this moment. The fact that this state of continuous talking that I have been engaging in for this period of time so far just is in fact a self-imposed structure, because in the continued doing of it, it's this idea of the structure itself. I suppose in some way I forget about it, or this the idea of the structure itself perhaps recedes into the background However, at the same time, it is present in every moment of what's going on. It is actually shaping everything that's going on here, or yeah, in some sense, like everything that I am saying, experiencing, and so forth, and thinking is related, or is in some way like an expression of this structure that is the basic idea of like talking continuously for 4 hours and recording it and making it public on the internet for you, and also the knowledge of you listening to it, and so on and so forth. And I find that like within it, within that structure, it's as if I'm able to enjoy certain rarefied state of being, that, and I say enjoy on the broadest sense, even if I say, you know, even if it's the experiences that I have while doing this are much more varied and complex than something like just pure pleasure or ease or something like that, you know, they vary all over the place. However, like I do have a type of, I guess I would say, a rarefied type of experience that I must just like be, I guess I just attribute to spending a duration of time within a rarefied type of structure. And when I say a rarefied type of structure, I mean just that it's a type of structure that is you know, that is that has no evidence of being like valuable, quote unquote, I suppose, other than for its being rarefied, other than it has no, you know, identifiable value other than its perhaps uniqueness. But maybe also some people might argue that it's not actually that unique or something. Maybe also I may be deluded into thinking that it's the structure that gives rise to the quality of everything in here, when in fact it may, the quality of everything being said in here maybe is in fact just has to do with personal subjectivity, or differences in or similarities, as the case may be, of my personality as opposed to other people's personality, other people who might also talk for very long times in a public forum on the internet. I mean, I don't know if forum is really, I might be giving things too much credit, but people who talk for a long time on the internet. But it's one thing that I can say that I am enjoying actually is just is the like time spent within an explicit structure, but a structure that is in some ways kind of insulated, in that it's has no known utility outside of itself, that it's not exactly functioning or connected to the quote-unquote world in a way that is clearly identifiable to me, or that it's, yeah, I mean, these are probably things that are a little obvious to say, or just that it doesn't have an obvious function, and so this time is not subordinated to something else. However, since it is structured, at least in this basic way, I feel actually liberated in some way, being within it, having this certain like mandate of completing this duration of time in this way. There is a type of liberation that I feel of the restriction of my choices during this time. That is, like you could say that I'm kind of freed from the compulsion to do many, like all the other things, or to think about all the other things. I'm not actually confined to this. I am actually at every moment, you could say, deciding to keep doing this, because, you know, even if I just stop and go do something else right this instant, obviously nothing bad happens. And so I don't know, maybe actually what I was just saying is all wrong, and that in fact this is an opportunity to actually keep making a choice that doesn't feel compelled. I mean, that's, you know, these are sort of, it seems like there's two kind of almost opposing framings of what's going on in this moment. Like one of them that I have sort of I've restricted my range of decisions into a certain guideline and along certain parameters, and that and so that I've kind of like narrowed my scope of possibilities for the given duration, and then and so, you know, regardless of whether my subjective experience within that is like positive or negative, or a complex mixture of the both, etc. Or on the other hand, that because the nature of what I'm doing is so non-functional, at least as far as my assessment goes, with regards to the external world, you know, the quote-unquote external world, that at every moment I'm actually more free, or let's say that in every moment I am able to activate my agency by making a type of choice that is non-functional or not subordinated to something external. But of course, I think that there's probably ways that it could be argued against both of those things. Like, for instance, it certainly could be possible to point to specific functions, or even less specific functions, and ways that this activity relates to the quote-unquote external world. I mean, any sort of smart person can draw up an interpretation of how what I'm doing is, enabling something bad or doing something bad. I certainly could come up with one of those interpretations. There's many options for explaining how anything that anybody does is bad. Or, is serving imperialism, or etc., etc. And I'm not even deriding doing that. I think you got to think about those things. I mean, this sounds really stupid, of course, but you got to exercise your critical faculties. But I'm just saying, exercise them fully, like, as in, don't stop there. Keep analyzing critically. Keep going. Keep going to the root, and then even beneath the root, and then you find there isn't even a root to it. Like the way that, like I'll be saying something, and then I'll be saying something kind of like assertively here, or at least with like saying something in the mode of propositional knowledge, I guess, or saying something in the mode of making an observation, and then very often immediately discover that an inverse interpretation of whatever it is I'm talking about might be equally true. And then both of those ideas get kind of undermined, but it's always undermined by another interpretation, or just bringing the mind's eye or whatever to the next type of logic or knowledge that was apparently supporting the previous ideas. You know what I'm talking about. This is kind of the spirit of walking and talking, I guess. I think it's one of the things that I've thought about walking and talking being an expression of, like to me, like the It's like an expression to me of like what I take knowledge to be, as in like, you know, trying impossibly, kind of trying to do the impossible of like to like never stop talking, like to like let this linguistic sort of like I don't know if it's necessarily like looking for truth or something, but it is. Let's just say that I'm speaking in the normal way, you know, in the typical way you understand this as English language. The words that I'm using, you know, however abstract modes of language they may be, it's common. But and then just doing that for like as long as I can, as long as possible, because you can keep going and still be as far from some kind of determinate truth or finality as you were when you started. This is all very broad. I like, for instance, when I'm saying this thing, when I'm saying what I'm saying right now, I feel a version of, you know, what if I were a little less savvy, if I were a little less perceptive, I would call imposter syndrome. However, since I am more perceptive than that, I like to imagine. It's just that when I say something like that, you know, something that's kind of broad truism type of speaking, like saying like that you could pursue the truth forever and not be any closer to it, and so on and so forth. I feel after I hear myself say that, I feel like I am not that I am fake, but that I'm doing fakeness. But when I'm saying that, and that when I'm saying something like that, it starts to feel like I'm saying something that's about something, and that is not the thing itself, you know, that I'm doing something that is about something, but is not the thing itself, but it is perhaps pretending to be the thing itself, and I feel hubristic, but that's I'm saying that in a negative type of evaluative language, but that's also like what the other interpretation of that is that I am doing that by experiencing my own hubris, or by experiencing my own fakeness. Then like each time that I catch myself saying something that's bullshit, or at least is on, you know, one valence of it is a bullshit valence, because it is about rather than the thing itself, then, you know, that realization, if I'm to continue into the subjectivity that realized that bullshit, then that is in itself the thing in itself that I would be purporting to doing, or that I would be desiring to be doing. But even when I say that, that in itself is bullshit, because this is framing the whole thing that I'm doing in an affirmative sense of like progressing through levels of self-knowledge or self-awareness, you know, like I'm now, like if I say it now, maybe you'll recognize that what I've been doing, you know, in this past passage, if you want to like try and mentally differentiate what I've been saying in the past 4 minutes somewhere from other things that I've been saying, that I have been framing this action of walking and talking in a well, to be honest, a type of dichotomy of a negative light of you know, it's continuously bullshit, or it's continuously fake, or each thing that I say is on one level about something and it is not being the thing in itself, and then on the other hand, the realization of that is actually the process of embodying the thing in itself. That is, you know, self-awareness as a transitive action of recognizing the emptiness, or not necessarily the emptiness, but like recognizing the dependence of certain thought objects, if you will, on other thought objects, and then you know, realizing that they don't have a inherent substance to them, or inherent truthfulness to them, but only a dependent type of truthfulness to them, or even untruthfulness, whichever the case may be. And so there has arisen in my speaking that kind of dualistic analysis of what it is that I'm doing. Like on one hand, bullshit, and on the other hand, sort of like superseding the bullshit as a transitive action. But I was going to say that even that dualistic framing of it is bullshit in a sense, which now, like, you know, this turn that I'm taking is also, I guess, would be perfectly predicted by the model that I'm just laid out, that like this is the expected action that you would do, is to, like, you know, you have this duality and then you negate that, one half of the duality sort of negates the other half of it, but then the duality itself becomes negated by another opposing interpretation, which I haven't exactly laid out yet, I don't think, but you get the idea. You know, you get the sort of picture of how this keeps going. But it gives me a sense that it just could keep going endlessly, and I'm like, I'm tempted, and maybe this is like a sort of a manic high type of thing to think about, or to say, like this is sort of thing that like someone on a bipolar high would say, or something like that. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm not bipolar or anything like that, really, but like that like to identify this pattern that seems to be emerging in the way that I'm speaking about these kind of dichotomous or dualistic interpretations of thought continuously arising, and then even that new paradigm then gets negated by an opposing the other side of that, turning it into a dichotomy that then gets negated, and so on and so forth, as if, I mean, you could illustrate this as either like ascending layers, like you're transcending, if you wanted to look at it this way, or that you're kind of descending and continually debasing the surface layers of reality. I don't know which sort of like visualization of that process makes more sense, like going up or going down. Doesn't seem to really matter. I guess either, I mean, of course, either would be kind of a false and compromised understanding anyways. Is this trail over here like more plowed? That would be amazing. No, it's just a parking lot. Anyhow, I guess I'll keep walking, as unpleasant as this path may be. But I started an idea and didn't complete it back there, just like that. Like if I'll just allow myself to indulge fully and blithely in the type of experience that this long duration of walking and talking affords me at the moment, to just extrapolate all these linguistic phenomena into like models of reality itself, then I would say something like, or if I were like on a bipolar high and like writing a long screed on Facebook or something like that, then I would say something like that. Like this process of like apparent reality, like continuously being either superseded / transcended, or like debased, whichever directional model you want to look at it from, is kind of like the process of reality unfolding, and it can and will and does and has always happened, like eternally or something. That's what I would say. That that this is both like the fundamental problem of life, or like experience itself, consciousness or whatever, and at the same time is the cause of, or is what actually constitutes life or consciousness or whatever. And then now I'm like, I'm like cringing at myself because I feel so suspicious of like everybody who has like grand theories or grand explanations that would purport to explain everything. Maybe I don't know if that's what I'm doing, and I'm actually hoping that the form of walking and talking, the length and the repetitiousness of it, is a type of antidote to that, is a type of anti-theory of everything. Like, as in a way that I was talking about just earlier, that like it's that I think it's basically impossible to ever. I mean, this, I could go on with this forever, that it is impossible to explain everything. Like that even the idea of a theory of everything is an impossible one. Like, it doesn't, a theory of, the idea of a theory of everything, I actually think is incoherent. Because I think, like, I think that knowledge is as much a limitation as it is a connection to the world. Like, I think it's like knowledge is a type of boundary, and as much as it might connect you to a certain aspect of reality, it's dividing you off from another aspect. And but this, like, when I say that, it's like, it's not valenced one way or the other. It's not, this is not speaking negatively of knowledge, or this is not me asserting like a type of naturalistic ignorance is the answer or something like that. It's actually just saying that, like, what an explanation is, or like what a theory is like a condensation, or it is a type of generalization that necessarily occludes information. Like any type of knowledge, like, I think necessarily occludes certain types of information in order to condense to other types of information. To connect the subjective self to the objective world through something like a knowledge, or even sensation for that matter, and I could get into that later, as I have in the past, requires the occlusion of a great deal of information. It requires an occlusion of a great deal of the world in order to connect the subjective self to the like the finite aspects of the objective world that are found to be the most relevant, or decided to be the most relevant in any given instant. But it's yeah, I'm well aware of the rambling sort of nature of this, and that I'm quite frequently going off on tangents, and I'm accepting this and allowing this perhaps as an expression of my opinion of the nature of knowledge. I mean, perhaps if I were doing this in a more edited form, if I was writing, perhaps then. But even still, and maybe this is a cop-out or whatever, even the idea of focus on a subject involves, it is in some sense a subjective type of standard, because it still means that even within, what is deemed a subject, within the boundaries of what's deemed a subject, all kinds of tangents are made, and like the idea of investigating a subject thoroughly means you investigate all the possible variety, or as much as you can within that. It means variety also. So I guess what I'm saying is that the idea of focus depends on what is deemed to be the subject of the scope of focus, Like, even if I experience myself doing something like changing the subject or going off on a tangent and branching off, well, yes, I may be not exactly totally focused on the subjects that I diverge from, but maybe there is some subject that I'm still within, or maybe there is certain parameters that I'm remaining within, that it could be said that I am focused on. But it's it's not. This isn't really about focus per se. As it is about just like keep continuing going. And covering as much ground by way of volume. But also the sense that the completion is not possible, and so it's not important. Like, it's not important per se, like for you as a listener to listen to all of the walking and talking, or even a ton of it, because I mean, if you are familiar with my own assessment of knowledge, or at least my idea of knowledge as expressed within this process of walking and talking, then you're not worried about getting it. Or getting more of it. But it's yeah, I mean, it's almost like if you asked me for a theory of everything, I'd be like this whole thing is it, but even more than that. Like the theory of everything just would have to be so large that it just is everything. I don't know. That's maybe not it. You can maybe tell that my language is getting more broad and less specific as I go on. Perhaps due to tiredness. But as I said before, like the sort of scale of broadness or specificity perhaps is not the end all be all, given that even when I try to be quote unquote super specific, then we run up and encounter the ambiguities even in the supposedly specific language, and we find that even they are kind of relative and upheld by other ideas, that even a really specific type of idea or word, or the meaning that a word conveys, even that is like really composed of a bunch of other ideas or words, and so on and so forth. Maybe you get some sense like this, that from walking and talking, that it keeps being encountered, how each thing that I say is composed of, each thing is like every single thing that I say sort of like calls to be dug into further, because there's, from many different facets of it, are found to be incomplete or unspecific or determined by other things, other ideas. But that also, in some sense, there's we're kind of free to move around in this landscape, sort of willy-nilly, I guess, because there's not a specified goal of the speaking. That it is, I mean, it's kind of funny to think about this now that at least the explicit structure only kind of necessitates that I keep speaking. It's like, why am I speaking like this? I'm not really sure. Maybe it is because of the external world that I'm speaking like this. I mean, it's funny. It's like to be frank with you, it's been a long time since I walked and talked before I began this episode, and it's not like I was, thinking philosophical thoughts all the time. It's not like I was like, thinking like heady stuff, or like reading philosophy, or doing anything smart, really. I'm just kind of living, just and having normal stupid concerns, just having normal mundane shit happen all the time, and just kind of living, not really thinking about this stuff. It's just this is just what's coming out. But I mean, maybe maybe it's conditioned that when maybe it's habit that when I walk and talk, and I've been in the same location before a few times, not in weather like this, but maybe just by habit and association with walking and talking, that it goes kind of like this. But it doesn't feel too like repetitiveness doesn't feel like so much of an issue. Like it may or may not be repetitive depending on how you look at it. Like yes, in some sense, I'm repeating the same action over and over again, and even probably many of the things that I talk about are repeated over and over again. But then it's like within that repetition, there's newness. It's almost like to the extent that the repetition exists, or the familiarity exists, also newness exists. I mean, even just in the sense of like, if you make one sound, hit a snare drum or something, and then you do the same thing, you hit the snare drum again, like that second hit is not the same as the first, and that it's happened already, and then it functions slightly differently in the perception of the person who has now heard 2 snare drum hits instead of just one. Like that's difference that is caused by sameness. Know what I mean? And then it's like, even if you tried for pure difference, I think you would find sameness. Like what would that even mean? What would that even mean to like to say that I'm going to do something that's like completely different, like, and now for something completely different. What I mean when I say that is like, in order to recognize something as different, or to recognize something at all, there must be a framework of likeness or sameness within which the thing is able to be recognized. Like, how to say, like, let's say if you're a musician and you play one certain type of sound, and then you're like, and now for something complete, I need to do something completely different so that I'm not repetitive. And then you make a different sound that is new, that you haven't made before, but to recognize that sound as something new, to register it as this is a new sound opposed to the old sounds, you have to have a substrate, if you will, of that these are sounds, or these are music, or these are part of music, or that there's a substrate of the continuity of yourself as a musician, in order for those sounds to be, like sensed at all, and to be sensible. Or how could I could I put it differently? Like if you have an apple and then you say this orange is different than the apple, you still have this substrate mental category of fruit. But then even if you try to stretch that and say like this apple is different from a star or something, like the sun or something, you acknowledge that the apple is different from the star, but you are implicitly acknowledging a substrate of that the apple and the star are both parts of, that is like things or objects, or like you're imparting to them sameness in the conceptual category of object. Or then like, let's test it further and be like, okay, well the apple is different than like the meaning of the word "and" or something like that. The apple is different from the meaning of the word "and." And then, I would venture to say, yeah, that's very different, but that also, like, by making a comparison like that, you are sort of implicitly imputing to both those things a type of categorical sameness, however kind of stretched it may be, of like that they exist in the same category of like mental, I don't know, mental objects or something, or things that are perceivable, or that they coexist in a category called reality or something like that. You're kind of saying that the meaning of the word "and" exists on some level in the same reality as an apple. It's interesting to me to think about how varied, from my perspective, the ways of talking have been so far in this walking and talking, and regardless of evaluating that quality of it, just that, within ostensibly the same process, that I can be like, on one hand, just in a microscopic way, analyzing specific words that I say, or the process of memory as it occurs, or analyzing the like kind of short duration thought processes that happen in relation to speaking, and then but also be making fairly broad, like I guess you could say philosophical pontifications that and that these would all are at least connected enough that they are arising within the same kind of like sectioned off duration of time in which I'm speaking more or less continuously is interesting to me. That there is continuity within everything that I'm saying, however tenuous it may be, or however tangential everything, the structure of this may be. That it is in some sense related, but maybe this doesn't even matter to talk about, or maybe it's also it's perhaps like an unnecessary kind of like me trying to justify myself or validate. I think that I could interpret this talking about whether what I'm saying is connected or not, as a kind of seeking of self validation along a value structure that isn't necessarily mandated here. That is like, overall coherence. Like part of me is hoping and wanting for this to have an overall coherence, but I'm also wondering if it is more appropriate to expel that notion from my mind, the idea of coherence versus not. Because, I mean, as I was just talking about earlier, like, about the sort of impossibility of any kind of like complete explanation of everything. Maybe the idea of like tight coherence is maybe that, I don't know, maybe that's kind of already dependent on a certain conception of how the kind of like categories of thought are laid out and should be laid out. But of course, maybe that's all just self-comfort. And in this most recent pause, I came back to this idea previously spoken about of concentration and like the ability to kind of recognize and draw forth concentration, or let's say like a way to exert effort to focus my energies on just talking continuously. And it's funny because even as I kind of like feel like I drill down more acutely on what I'm saying, like the type of attention that I can expend to hopefully speak a little more accurately and a little more articulately and about a shorter and more acute time duration, that is like to say it in a broad sense, like just focus more on what I'm saying, like in the moment, and but more accurately to kind of like reduce the temporal scope of my awareness, and also perhaps reduce the conceptual scope of my awareness, like to encompass my speaking a little bit more directly, if you know what I mean, to just like focus on speaking more. That same type of attention also kind of brings me into like not knowing what I'm talking about, and or it's like maybe just perceiving more clearly the fuzziness of the language that I'm using. Or maybe it's also just like as I try to narrow down the focus on the things that I'm saying more immediately, then it could be that the longer structure then recedes out of my awareness a little more. And so the idea of like, the idea of kind of coherence becomes harder to justify or something. But even like the even on the kind of microscopic level of what I'm saying, it's almost as if like I can see through it, or I can perceive through the words, sort of like an emptiness of meaning, which is not a bad thing at all. In fact, maybe this is wishful thinking, probably is, but as if perceiving emptiness in what I'm saying can like allow me to just keep talking without much anxiety about the specific words I'm saying. But that's not true either, exactly, because I am still trying to convey my experience, and it does seem as if like the experience is like harder to convey or something, or that it's like an experience that words are not so suited for something, but trying to use them anyways. But also that's also not exactly true, because the experience that I'm having is totally being shaped by words. It's like it's almost like I'm funneling my experience into a type of linguistic one, but then like like focusing my experience on this linguistic process, but then finding the emptiness of the language at the same time, but that not being a problem. What is kind of a problem is how wet and cold my feet are getting. It sucks. But is it the case that if you self-impose something that's long and ordinarily difficult, that when it ends you'll like feel very satisfied? I think it probably is. And so I'm just kind of intentionally like shifting the texture of my experience to intentionally, for some duration, experiencing discomfort, and then when that ends, all the kind of deferred comfort will come rushing back, as I feel the satisfaction of like putting on dry socks. But but then like extending that to all facets of experience, like like the sort of psychic exposure of walking and talking will then make my privacy at the end be felt in a positive way. I think something like that, yeah. But I imagine all of this to be like net zero. But I could be wrong. And then that phenomenon where like there's this like a pause again, and I start to drift into like normal life type of experience is unpleasant, because then like the things like discomfort like arises like a type of problem. But when I am keeping talking, then there's this avenue of experiencing all of it differently as just experience. But it's like the structure is a type of anchor that like gives me a reason actually to endure the temporary discomfort. Because I'm happy, I guess. I'm happy upholding the structure. I think it's kind of funny to do. I find this I don't know, I was gonna say like a good use of my time, but then even saying that feels contrary to what I'm trying to convey. Like, don't worry about time, or do. It's getting to that point where like the idea of continuity is breaking down a little bit for me. That is, or the importance of it is breaking down a little bit to me, or what it even means or would be in service to is breaking down a little bit. But I'm self-compelled anyways to continue talking, and so it may become relatively more sporadic and disjointed seeming. And perhaps that is a byproduct of fatigue setting in, even though I know there's still got a long ways to go. But or perhaps it is a result of the trajectory of the actual thought process as it has taken shape so far. Maybe both of those. But like when there's a momentary pause just now, it's not taken in a frantic search for the thing to say, but perhaps momentary relaxing into the I don't know, the desire not to say anything, or not saying anything, starting to assert more powerfully its equivalence to saying something, or to saying all these things. However, this is walking and talking, and so that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. And but I do feel happy that you are listening. That it makes me feel some kind of connection. That Well, it makes me feel like there's a type of interaction that we can have that well, I mean, I guess it's not really. Is it an interaction or is it not? I'm not sure, you know? Like, on one hand, I'm just talking and I don't know what you're doing, but I know that you're at least listening because just by virtue of your comprehension of me saying the words that you're listening, you're necessarily listening to some degree. Of course, it's not, you know, like interactive in the sense of like you specifically aren't having an effect, you specifically, like your personality specifically as an individual aren't having a direct effect on like how I'm talking or what I'm saying, or even that much effect of like whether I keep doing it or not. So it's not interactive in the normal sense. However, it's like my knowledge of the potential and actual communication that is occurring is an integral part of this. That it wouldn't like be the same thing at all if, for example, I was walking and talking and then I just would delete the recording every time, or not recording it at all, or not, of course, not talking at all. That's, you know, like what I'm doing most of the time after when I'm not walking and talking. That already exists. Not walking and talking is the default. And so walking and talking feels like whatever the opposite of default is specifically. And it feels like that's what it's almost and in like the important quality of it as being like a specifically non-default type of thing to do. I think. Could it be the case that the physical conditions, the environmental conditions at this moment contribute more impedance to the process of walking, talking? That is, it's challenging to walk, and so I'm expending more energy walking than I would otherwise, and Therefore, my thinking and my speaking are impeded. But then I'm kind of like, that makes me think of like, what would totally unimpeded thought be? Like thought with no sort of context. Like this is, I mean, this speaking is kind of like, at least in my idea of it, as a type of speaking without context, or speaking with like sort of like a reduced context. But what I mean by that is that because of the duration of it, the context of speaking kind of recedes from awareness after you've been talking for so long, that the quote unquote, you know, the thing that it would be in reference to is receding, and then the speaking itself becomes more about itself, or more self-referential and self-contained. At least that's my idea of how it might be. I'm sure that there's opposing interpretations as well that I could go into, but anyways, what was I getting at? That like there still is, you know, something external being sensed, that is like the physical world where I'm walking, and like my physical sensation of interacting with that, my feet on the ground, and my feet getting wet and cold, and so on and so forth. The things that I see and hear, and the action of walking. But could something, would this be more purified? We're just in a sensory deprivation chamber talking. Hey, never thought about that. Just, you know, go in a sensory deprivation tank. You know, you go in the salt, you float in some salt water, and it's pitch black and silent, except that I'd be talking in there. Maybe I should try it, you know. Maybe I should do it. However, this is, you know, this is like a, this also like is a normal thing, you know, that is both walking and talking. I like that they're normal. I like that these are just parts of normal life, like really some of the most normal things. And then you just do them for longer, and that's all. That's like, you just make that one little adjustment, the length, and it brings you into a different world, or I don't know, more into the same world or something. Who knows? I'm losing it. Losing my ability to speak with continuity and clarity. But maybe that benefits some people, you know? Maybe that's actually more decipherable to some people. These jerks ain't gonna stop for the crosswalk. One guy did. One guy stopped for the crosswalk. But I mean, actually, maybe at this point, you know, when I can hardly muster it to say anything smart sounding, maybe this is the real walking and talking, you know? Maybe all the rest is the bullshit. And then at this point is the real kind of like just talking. And maybe this is, you know, maybe this is what the long duration kind of affords that you don't get otherwise. That you make it so long that like it's impossible to maintain the smart sounding stuff. But then you still have a lot of time to fill, and then maybe this is the real shit. You know what I mean? Where I really don't know what to say, but I'm saying anyways. You know what I mean? Maybe this is when it gets real. Maybe here when it gets kind of like repetitive and terse and slightly more affected. I mean, I don't know, maybe the way I was talking before is a type of affect, or a type of flat affect or something, and then this is a type of variegated affect or whatever. Maybe this is the real shit. I know it's coping, right? This is just coping. Maybe the coping is the real shit. Also, maybe all of it's real. Maybe all of it's fake. Maybe all of it's bullshit. Well, we know that already. When it sucks to walk, everything I say is like misleading you, you know? Or it's let's just say obviously it's leading you. I'm leading you. Like this is like all language is propaganda. Know what I mean? That sort of thing. That's what I feel like. Even when I say that, you know, even when I say that, it's like as if it's like a form of virtue signaling, you know, like when I'm vocally acknowledging my bullshit, then it's this is just manipulating you into trusting me more, so I can bullshit you more. Even this part, what I just said, it's all just manipulation. You know, like if you have like a guru who's like, you know, well, don't just trust me, you know, determine from your own experience, like what is reality, or what is true. It's like, you know, that's just them, you know, that's just a way of them getting you to trust them more. Seek your own truth. I'm like empowering you, dog. Ugh. I'm empowering you, dog, to be able to discern reality yourself. Me, I'm the one empowering you. Me. You know who you owe that power to? That power of discernment? That power of you know, critically examining your reality? You know who you owe that to? Me. You owe me. See, now I'm just like getting silly and wacky. And then and now I'm you know, being critical of my being silly and wacky. And then I just, like, you know, keep flipping the script. To show you how self-aware I am of my shortcomings. I'm showing you how much, what's the word? Epistemic humility I have. I have so much epistemic humility. So effing much. See, I did not even curse there, because I didn't say the F word, because of how you know, critical I am of the new terseness in media, the new rudeness. Cause I'm so on top of it, man. I'm so on top of it. I'm past the rudeness. I'm past the cussing, you know. That shit's old news. The cussing. To like demonstrate, how like embodied and in touch with like my um how in touch I am with my shadow side and my anger, and how I'm like I'm like in the street, and I don't take any shit from anybody, and I call them as I see them, and I like drop the F-bomb because I'm not messing around. That's old news. It's all about the new courteousness, you know. The courteousness is coming back. Courteousness in media. Because I'm so humble. I'm just like an endless knowledge seeker. I'm just a seeker, just like you. You and me, we're just seekers together in this big, vast, mysterious world. Do you think it's wrong that this episode of Walking and Talking has variability of tone and affect? I think it might be kind of wrong. I think it should have consistency of tone and affect. I think it should be all the same type of talking. I should go back to how it was before, not this sarcasm. I think I should completely discard the post-ironic texture that's starting to happen here. Don't you? Haven't we had enough of this? But then we got here out of fatigue for realism, out of getting tired of earnestness, and then getting tired of irony, getting tired of cynicism, tired of cynicism and earnestness, and now we're tired of the sort of post-ironic, ambiguous blending of the two. So we need like post-earnestness. Post-earnestness must be the appropriate response. The next it must necessarily be the next cultural wave. You should write an article about it. But this is I kind of hate all of this. Kind of hate all this, and then even myself saying I hate it all. But I say that, you know, I feel disgust. I feel disgust with what I'm saying, but at the same time I don't. At the same time, I don't feel disgusted with having that disgust, but also I'm becoming less sure what I feel at all, or what feelings are. It's just we're just eating up time, because that's the idea. But what if I make an effort to return to the more earnest nature that was exhibited at the beginning of the episode? Is that possible, or is it like one of those things that once something's been ruptured, you can't return to how it was before? Like there's a necessary scope, or maybe it's the case that if I reprise the type of content and mode that was present at the beginning, after some type of development, that it has a slightly different function to it, and it starts to function more like a ending than a beginning or something, as might be the case in like some musical structures, you know, like the chorus at the end feels different than the chorus at the beginning, because of the development that happened in the middle. But I guess I would say that I haven't really tried that in earnest yet. But I will say that certain things are necessarily different than from before. Like, for instance, my socks keep getting wetter and wetter, and so that's something that's different. That's different. That's just different. But anyways, it's actually maybe an interesting thought experiment to attempt to reprise the mode of speaking that was present at the beginning. And also I have to acknowledge a possible influence here of recurrent environmental cues, So, for example, I'm walking out and back, and I'm on the way back, because I have to. It would be good for me to end up close to where I began, for practical reasons that have nothing to do with the content of walking and talking. However, but it does mean that I will retrace my steps and the geographic locations of the first half of this episode of Walking and Talking in reverse. And it's quite possible, as I have experienced in the past, that the geographical place may present certain mental cues to me. That is, walking by a certain place, if I remember walking by it before, may trigger unconsciously me speaking about similar things that I happen to be speaking about when I walked through that place before. It's quite interesting how seemingly unconsciously that can happen to me, and then I notice it's happening after the fact. But then that sometimes just the geographic topology of the path that I walk will have an isomorphic. There will be an isomorphic type of topology of thought that occurs in the speaking. But anyhow, I'm not necessarily yet retreading the mode of speaking that I was doing at the beginning, but maybe I am, because then I have to. Then this requires, categorizing what exactly is relevant about this being, like which parameter, which characteristic of speaking is the relevant one that I should be recreating. And then when I start to think about those, I start to realize that those parameters are actually not clearly defined at all, and that it's only fuzzy sort of impressions that I might have of the quality of talking. It might be an emotional or affective quality, or perhaps it is a certain methodology of like procedurally moving through thoughts in a certain direction or along certain lines. But that's maybe the case that, like, this that I'm talking about, this discussing like what are the relevant parameters or characteristics of thought that should be selected to denote sameness. Maybe I am finding actually that this does exhibit some similarity to the way I was speaking before. Even this also. It's kind of interesting, like this sensation of returning to something. Like, but I'm still, I still feel like, I mean, I'm gonna counter like everything that I said earlier, but just that like I actually don't think that there's a value to this whole thing of walking and talking, in the sense that, like, I know, like, earlier I was, talking somewhat gloriously about being liberated from function, or so on and so forth. But it's like, I also just see that this is like this has resulted in me just doing a lot of pontificating by myself, which in a certain sense is just stupid. Like this, like the whole thing also, this whole thing is also just stupid. Like in a way that is not salvageable by some means of, like, well, we need something like that. Well, it's it's an alternative to all the other stuff or something. Well, we need more stupid stuff in the world or something like that. No. I think it's there's a level on which this is all just supremely narcissistic and like the stupidest thing to be doing. But but on that same level that I say that, I also feel like, I don't know, I almost want to say that, well, everything is like that. Or everything has that aspect. But maybe not. Maybe actually some people just like spend their lives like doing good things or meaningful things. Maybe some people actually spend their lives helping, like helping other people or helping the world or something. In fact, I think a lot of people just do that. Just helping somebody, in even in the mundane professional sense. If they get paid to do something that somebody needs to be done. But instead, I don't get paid. Hey, there's a fox. Cool. It's a foxy. See if I can zoom in. Can I zoom? Can I zoom? Let me see if I can help you see this fox. Where'd he go? Where'd the fox go? I can't see him now. I think he scampered off. But as I was saying, instead, I don't get paid to do things that nobody needs. But I can probably convince you that you need it. I can probably convince you that you need this. But then, you know, that's like a lot of things too, is people convincing you that you need something. That feels like what our whole fucking economy is. See, I did drop the F-bomb there just to let you know that I'm a straight shooter. That I don't sugarcoat the truth. And I'm in touch with my gut feelings about things. When I got a gut feeling, I got a gut feeling. And sometimes that must be expressed using a cuss word. Because I call them how I see them. But sometimes the whole damn economy seems to just be a big network of people convincing other people that they need things, certain things, and finding your niche is just a matter of finding the specific thing that you can convince enough other people that they need. Or if the thing never existed, everybody would be totally fine and might even be better off. What's that animal? There's an animal over there. There's a deer way down there in the path. You probably can't see it because it's probably too small on the screen. How about now? Can you see it? Probably still too small. How about this though? You know? How about walking and talking? What is this? But it's not really in the money economy because I don't get paid for it. And you don't give me anything for it unless you're one of the like 6 subscribers on my Patreon or whatever. You don't need it. It's excess. This is the type of excess that I can get down with. I think. It's something. I don't know. It's something. But then also, there's a lot of time that I'm not doing it. There's a lot of time, you know, out of eternity or whatever, or also just within your and my lifespans that do not consist of doing or experiencing walking and talking. And so you can be reassured with that. Rest assured that not all of eternity is this. But It kind of feels like that when you know, when you're listening to it. Know what I mean? Like when will I just be able to get back to having the perceived solidity of existence that is granted by relativity of things to other things that I don't comprehend at the moment, and therefore my proximate experience feels real, or like it's something, like it has some kind of solidity. But then I don't even know if it does. Like you know, I was gonna say, on one hand, when I'm not walking and talking, I'm like, certain things feel real, like eating, or I mean, you know, food always starts to invade my little mind towards the end of these. But then I'm like, what else feels in normal life? What feels solid? And I'm not so sure that if it does or if it doesn't. Maybe it does and it doesn't. You know, things feeling real. Things seeming real. They do and they don't. Maybe, you know, I do this and things lose their reality for a while, but then when I come back, they feel a little more real, relative to this. You know, it's just you can just kind of like juxtapose things, and then like it's like when I start the walking and talking, after a while, it's like refreshing, because I'm like, oh, this is feels real, as opposed to normal life. And then by the end of walking and talking, all that reality has kind of dissipated, and then I'm like, oh yeah, just like doing things that need to be done feels real again. Like a dry pair of socks feels real. Alternative media. Like this may become just as disjointed and incoherent as a TikTok feed or something. But then still, it's like, isn't that incoherence and disjointedness, like, isn't that itself a type of unifying quality? Like, you have this fucking like Instagram feed that's like a goddamn jumble, but then it's like you can always rely on it to be that jumble, you know? Kind of like this. But we're doing it. I mean, we might be losing it, but it's good to get to that point. It's good. We've really kind of like, you know, self built up a whole like structure of meaning to exist within. It builds itself. And but maybe it's like what that hints at for me is like you know, that there is a sort of arbitrariness to this particular structure. I guess I would say that kind of hints that like the possibility of like wildly different structures out there. And I just think about like different animals' existences. Like just completely different understanding and experience of the world. Like and but also it feels it comforts me about mortality. Or it's not exactly like comforting, but like when I initiate walking and talking and this like this feeling of a continuity of subjectivity just like is like online, like nothing ever changed, or that no time has lapsed in between or something, or that kind of experience, or that nothing is missed, sort of, because of the way that like actually kind of like linear temporality sort of starts to like recede out of the experience over a long duration of like doing something the same. It makes me feel like, you know, it makes me feel like death is not a loss exactly. Or that, but also that just like this, you know, this whole experience thing not this form of it, but it in general is without time, you know. It's unbounded in time. Keeps going is what I mean. But yeah, enough with the like manic sort of pontificating. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, you know? This is like maybe improvising in a way that is and I say that without a value judgment of it being good or bad to improvise, just that because of the duration, like I do really feel like I'm just kind of going on to fill the time to get to the end, and so like without having anything to say, like at this point, like you know, without the structure in place of walking and talking. But I mean, this is a moot point. This is a moot point for me to say that, like, if I weren't doing a walking and talking episode, I wouldn't be talking right now. It's a pointless thing to say, actually, because that's an alternate reality. This is the reality that we have. The one in which I'm attempting to talk continuously. Like, this is it. And it's the reality in which you are listening to some extent. And that's I don't know, that feels like the correct approach, actually, just to be like, this is the reality we got, this is the reality we have right now, anyways. Like, I don't know, it's fine to imagine a reality in which I am not trying to make a 4-hour-long YouTube video at the present moment. I mean, maybe it's fine to consider that. Maybe it is fine to consider it. There's no reason I can't. But then, after considering it, I just come to, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is reality for the time being. and to keep in mind all the options that are alive right here. Like I could go on thinking about how this serves imperialism, like the fact that like maybe in my purported uselessness of this type of media, that it is kind of like advertising itself as a way of escaping the imperialistic death machine by means of consuming media. But in fact, this is actually like a facet of capitalism subsuming more aspects of human experience into the like toxic media landscape, and generating passive viewers out of ones that would otherwise be like like activated agents of a new revolutionized world. Like if you weren't watching Walking and Talking right now, can you imagine the fucking like positive difference you'd be making in the world? Man, it could be so fucking great if you weren't Walking and Talking, but you were instead like out there revolutionizing the world into like a totally like politically like activated and involved public, co-creating a world of the permanent revolution. Permanent revolution of like continually reassessing the axioms that determine how society works, and continually redistributing the resources to those who need it, but also like reassessing what types of resources are important, and how to be more harmonious with the natural world, and so on and so forth, and like reclaiming everyone's autonomy to self-determine the value structures that govern their lives and everything. But instead you're just listening to Walking and Talking. Damn, could have been so great. Could have been a really great world, but instead there's Walking and Talking. I'm just out here reifying capitalism and imperialism and U.S. and Western hegemony. State-backed violence and I'm just messing around. I'm just messing with you. But seriously, if you do something like kind of shady, I don't know, like, you should not do that. If you're doing, really shitty things, just don't. Just don't. Like for your job, Just don't do jobs where you have to fuck over other people, Try not to, if you can. I know it's hard. It's actually hard not to, right? It's hard not to like get put in one of those positions where it's like you have to exploit other people or the natural world in some way in order to make a buck or in order to get by. But you just make your best effort not to, and I promise it'll pay off. You'll sleep better at night, I think. Anyhow, this way of talking feels wrong in terms of what walking and talking is supposed to be. This feels like I'm doing something shitty, You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I compromise the artistic integrity of walking and talking by becoming didactic. Oh God. Oh God. Oh fuck. Ah fuck, I'm didactic. Fuck. Ah shit. Ah fuck. Ah shit. Ah fuck. Shit. God damn it. I really screwed up this time. Did I really walk all this way? This is far. This is far, man. I don't remember walking this far. Now I'm fucking serving imperialism by becoming didactic in my thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm reifying the hegemonic value system by telling you should be good and not bad. I'm reifying the good and bad dichotomy that underpins our Western conception of good and evil that affords us to otherize and dehumanize and therefore enact violence upon perceived others in the world. You see, I did it again. And now I'm still doing it. Damn it. You can't win. Fuck. You can't win. You get didactic, and then you realize that's bad, and so you try to do good by critically analyzing your didacticism. But then you realize even that was also a type of didacticism that is, try to be good, and then so you're bad because you try to be good, and every time you try to be good, it's actually bad. And then you just screw it all up. You mess it all up, and you can only do bad stuff. And then if you try to go the other direction and you try to do bad stuff, the bad stuff is still actually just bad. So doing good stuff is bad, and doing bad stuff is also just bad. Isn't it amazing though that we've gotten this far? I'm still going after all these years. I'm still here. That's fucking nuts. That's fucking nuts. I'm still doing this. Isn't that fucking nuts? And you're still listening. You're still listening. You're fucking nuts, man. Or woman, or other category. That's nuts. But when I say man, I'm like, you're nuts, man. It's like how it's a type of like, displaying how kind of like salt of the earth I am, and I address you in the kind of in the informal way that doesn't actually imply a gender, even though it's kind of like superficially sort of enacting like a patriarchal type of like using a male gendered language for like non-determinate types of nouns, but it's but I do so to like kind of signify my non-bourgeois status in society. Therefore, kind of demonstrating my place as like of the people. Like I'm not my non-elitist status. That's what I mean when I say man. Like, it's like a very mild form of the new rudeness that you got to do. But I'll be honest, sometimes I just do feel rude. I mean, I I mean, I am just rude. Like it is. It's part of me to be rude. Often. Like I'm just rude. I'm just a rude, unfiltered guy. You know what I mean? I just call him as I see him. If your feelings get hurt, tough tooties. It's like I'm just playing. I like being considerate. I kind of would prefer being considerate. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's different. Where are we at? We must be getting there. We must be getting there. I'm afraid to say it. I'm afraid to say it. I don't want to curse things by starting to talk about what you know. I'm going to start talking about. I would call that the END. But in fact, we are getting there. Holy shit, man. We're doing it. I've almost completed an episode of Walking and Talking. You've almost listened to the whole thing. Assuming you aren't one of those people that skips ahead. Yeah. I'll get to stop this whole performance. And then I'll just be, you know, doing the performance of normal life. Get back to doing that performance. You know, that performance where I like sort of pretend that certain things matter and are important, and that, like, I don't know, and sort of, you know, pretend like we're all not just gonna be dead in several years, and or all traces of our memories will be lost to eternity, and the world will change inevitably beyond any kind of comprehension. and but I can have I don't know, I guess in normal life I'm also, just saying a lot of stupid things, but it's just not recorded for lots of people to listen to in perpetuity. But then, in some sense, I feel as if it's like somehow like it's all kind of like karmically recorded, anyways. Like just in the sense that whatever I say or do has some kind of effect, even if I were just to like look at it in a sort of like scientific physicalism understanding of the world, where like I say something to somebody else and then that has a slight effect on them, and or even if I just think something to myself, then it has some effect on what I do next, and then all of that does have some effect on like the unfolding of at least material reality in this understanding of it. So I do have this sort of feeling like everything is kind of, like I said, karmically recorded, but not in a way that I mean like a simple like good and evil type of karmic like balance or something. But just, that it all happens. It all happens. Everything that happens. It's like there. But then in another sense, there's another sense in which actually nothing happens at all, ever, because the whole, every layer, every substratal layer of reality is unreal in the sense that it's dependent on what's supporting it from beneath, until you just get to pure emptiness. But then, so in that sense, it's like all fine, but at the same time, it's not that's not exactly fine. It's not it might be fine, but it's not exactly like hunky-dory. Know what I mean? Holy shit, man. My toes are cold. Holy shit. I do think and feel that this is really like an episode of Walking and Talking. It really is that. It really is approximately 4 hours of walking and talking. It really is that. I mean, sometimes I do think about being reincarnated as various animals. And I think of that as a sort of like metaphysical shorthand for something that I am normally not able to comprehend in most mind states. That is like, it's not that I believe in reincarnation in like a temporally like linear sense, or that like I have a, it's not that I feel like my subjectivity is encapsulated in a soul that will move from one body to another body after death and before birth and that sort of thing. However, I feel like that model is a type of translation into my typical mundane sort of consciousness of a metaphysics that yes, is not often actually comprehensible to me, but it's like a stand-in for it that is maybe useful to me to like consider like what the experience is like of animals or even plants, or even things that would be considered inert, like rocks or stars and that sort of thing. Instructive how I'm not sure if I'm able to articulate at the present moment. Maybe that's just a way of saying that I mostly like animals. And that I do think about being them a lot. Or just I mean, is just to regard another being have something in common with like trying to imagine what it's like to be them. But there's beings that I kind of fail to do that with. I mean, like, there's people that I think of as very evil. There's lots of people in the world that I think of as very evil, and I think that my regarding them as evil is maybe synonymous to my not being able to imagine what it's like to be them, like that I cannot imagine what it is like to be the type of person that like wants to like start wars and stuff. But I don't know, maybe I can imagine that when I get really pissed off at somebody. Or, well, I mean, yeah, maybe it's like, I feel like I would want to, like, that type of person, like, I'd want to do a particular things to them. Like, if the unlikely situation presented itself where I had the opportunity to do something to them, and then so maybe that's a similar type of category of subjective experience that they experience all the time. However, they happen to be they happen to be in a position to do lots of terrible things to other people. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm tired. I'm too tired to think clearly about these things. They're still fucking assholes, man. I hope they get it. I hope those fuckers get it. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? I hope those bastards get what's coming to them. But the thing is that what's coming to them, I don't see anything coming to them except good things, which sucks. The more, you know, the more evil you are, the more good things happen to you. It sucks. It's whack, but that's how it is. It's pretty whack. It's pretty whack that we live in such a whack world. But at least there's this. I don't know. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. Just disregard all of this. It's just like register that I am talking, but do not try not to even understand any what I'm saying. I mean, I have a requirement that I speak in language that has normal syntax, and I speak understandably. But I'm just asking you to do me a favor and don't understand it. Because I'm kind of tired and my feet are soaked. And therefore I cannot be held accountable for anything I say. But thankfully, we're getting there. I've just been continuously copping out. This whole thing is one extended cop out or series of cop outs. That is, when I say something smart sounding, that's bullshit. And also when I say something dumb sounding, that's also bullshit. And when I say that the things that I'm saying are bullshit, that's also bullshit. Including this that I'm saying right now. Including the kind of continual negation of everything said as a process. That is whack. It's no good. And we're gonna get rid of it in just in a few minutes. However, I would like to point out that, you know, walking and talking is a great work of art, possibly the best work of art in human history up to this point. And you know, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if there's a better work of art than walking than this that you're experiencing right now. Prove me wrong. And as such, you should probably patronize me. And I don't mean talking down to me, but actually don't, you know, because then don't give me any money, because then you'll spoil it. You'll spoil me. You'll spoil this great work of art. And that would be serving imperialism. But in the context of this, because it's art, then I can say that I don't have to. I could say something wacky like imperialism is good or something, and it doesn't, without being held accountable because it's art. So there. Ha. Don't. I'm sorry, okay? I truly am. But you've done the inconceivable. You've done the inconceivable by being here like this, by listening. And I don't want to like say anything towards the very end of the episode that could be misconceived, because I know that you skipper headers, like, probably the place you're gonna skip ahead to is like the very end, because I know you. I know your type. You want to see what that you want to get to the end, see what finally happened, because that must be the important part. But unfortunately, the end is not any more significant than the rest of it. It's only granted any kind of meaning at all by the whole experience, the whole 4 hours. You can't just skip to the end. It doesn't work like that. Anyhow, don't let the bastards grind you down. Keep your socks dry. Don't be worried about death, or do, you know, have a normal amount of caution regarding death and stuff like that. Actually, just, you know, keep kind of continuing in life, like you know, as normal, or like with a normal amount of aberrance or idiosyncrasy, or difference or individuality. Like, I guess be good, do good stuff or something, but like not in the way where like the good and evil dichotomy permits you to actually be doing gravely evil things in the name of good and so forth. I think we're pretty much there. So yeah, like, be good and stuff. Bye.